we are not quite at the start of free agency. The draft is Friday, but Yzerman's clearing cap space. He already had about 28, 29 million. Now he's going to have about 31 million to work with. Why? He has enough to pay Seider and Raymond. He has enough to re-sign many of the key players that are free agents on his own team. Who is he looking for? John? I think it's Steven Stamkos.
Oh, he's got a relationship with him.
Some familiarity. A guy who scored 40 goals 2 of the last 3 seasons, a playoff performer, a guy who's been in the wars and the battles to win Stanley Cups. 34 years old. He played 79 games last year. He played 81 each of the previous 2 years. He's durable.
Mm-hmm. Still a point-a-game guy.
Yeah, exactly. Power play, can play a little center, more of a winger at this stage of his career, but the scoring punch the Wings didn't have when Dylan Larkin got hurt. He won't fix their defense. He won't fix their goalie, but Yzerman needs the cap to do all of it, right? He needs the cap to get Stamkos, bring back his guys, and still address the defense. So he tried to create a little extra space. The question is Stamkos even available? It's starting to sound like the answer is yes. This is from TSN. The first voice was Pierre LeBrun, and the second was Chris Johnston, both hockey insiders of TSN. Stamkos shaping up to be available unless something changes, and the Wings being one of the teams positioning themselves to get him. John, how do you feel?
I mean, I would like it. You know, he's, like I said, he's a point-a-minute guy.
Point a minute, hell yeah.
Point a game guy. That would be a hell of a run.
Didn't Michigan have a team that was a point a minute team?
It was like in 1902.
Yeah, like 100 years ago.
And so when you think about adding a guy like that who has this is the same conversation that we had in the middle of the season last year with Patrick Kane. You're bringing in a guy that's got cup experience. You're bringing in a guy that can be very beneficial to the production of your team, but also the development of your young players. And I don't know that we saw everything we were hoping to see from Patrick Kane, especially when Dylan Larkin goes down. We're hoping that because there were so many goal scorers on this team that somebody would step up and fill that void. Nobody did. Patrick Kane didn't. DeBrincat did. Nobody did. And that's when they fell off. And now you have a chance to add another guy in Stamkos that your thinking is kind of along those same lines, where you can, correct me if we would love to hear this from another team, where you're developing your young players. Some of those are actually developing to be good, like Raymond and Seider, and you're hoping to bring along Edvinsson and some of the other young players. Mm-hmm. But along the way, you can add some veteran experience and production that you get instant gratification on the ice, but you also get that experience that is being shared with your younger players.
Yeah, you're allowed to do that. I can confirm that. Steven Stamkos would make a lot of sense for this hockey team. He would. Because you do want someone who can help close the gap, get you to the playoffs, and then be a guy who performs in the postseason. Because Yzerman has said all along, we don't want to just get in, we want to be able to do damage. Stamkos is a player who's been part of damage in the postseason. He had 5 goals in 5 games last year. He is someone who is more proven than a DeBrincat, younger than a Kane, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, a year.
Younger than Kane.
Yeah.
And someone who Yzerman is more familiar with than even Patrick Kane. There's some risk with Kane in the hip. I think he put a lot of that in the background now, in the back burner. But Yzerman's got to make a decision on a deal that could be 3 or more years, and he might be uncomfortable giving that to Kane. He might feel more secure in doing that with Stamkos. He may need a little extra change to get it done, which would justify some of the moves that were made this week.
Well, and you always wonder in free agency. You do as much research, you talk to as many people, you watch as much film, you try and get as much background information as you possibly can about some of these guys, but you're never as familiar with them as you are with your own players. Obviously, having spent a half a year with Patrick Kane, they know a lot more about him now than they did before he was in their locker room. But this is a guy that Steve Yzerman is very familiar with. And I think if he's going to pay someone and give him a 3 or a 4-year deal, it's going to have to be a guy that he's familiar with. And he checks all those boxes.
Right. He does. Texter says, why would he want to come here? He wants to win. We can't even make the playoffs.
Well, again, it's gonna be a matter of, at this point in his career, he spent his entire career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mm-hmm. Does he want to move on? And I mean, you heard it in the audio that we just played. He'd probably like to stay there. But if they can't pay him, is this his last big payday?
Well, right. I think that might be part of it. It sounds like Tampa has an offer that they don't want to budge on as of now. And if he wants more money or more term, it's going to be elsewhere. And if he wants to prioritize that last big contract in his career, it doesn't sound like as of today that's in Tampa. So a team like Nashville who's fighting to get in and make some noise in the playoffs, a team like the Red Wings who's fighting to get in and make some noise in the playoffs, those are the type of teams that are going to look to pay him and pay him a little extra. And that little extra may be what Yzerman just freed up.
And from the player's perspective, too, you want to go to somebody that you trust. Yeah. And you got to believe that he would have as much trust in Steve Yzerman as you're going to find if you're leaving one team going to another.
Texter says, Cookies, you're crazy. The Wings have an aging goal scorer. If he goes after a starting goalie, that would free up a spot so they don't have to carry 3. So that's the other question. If you don't think it's Stamkos, who do you think it is? You think it is one of these goalies that's still out there?
Well,
now those would be trades. You'd be giving up assets to do it.
They'd be trades, and then the question is, how long are you going to have that goalie for? Because if you think Costa is the future, are you going to take a guy that has a maximum of 2 years, and then you either have to cut free of that guy, or does their contract expire? You don't want to be paying a goalie that you're not going to have on the ice because you're going to have Costa.
No. Ticket text 248-539-9797. What do you make of this? Am I onto something? Am I reading into this correctly that Yzerman's move is Steven Stamkos? Tampa not getting a deal done? Still far up. I don't know if far apart would be maybe a mischaracterization, but they need to up their offer according to TSN insiders. And if it's not Stamkos, what is the big move Yzerman's looking to make?
I think you're onto something here. I mean, it's the right thing. I don't know. My gut reaction is no on this. I just feel like he's still got something left in the tank.
You think he's going to be back in Tampa?
I don't know. It's not that. I don't think it's the right fit for this team. I just don't.
He's not gritty enough?
Just the age. If he was 2 years younger even, I could go there. I want to ask you guys this. Does him being the captain in Tampa factor into this like at all? And let's say he comes here. Yeah, I'm not sure. Who's the captain?
Larkin's the captain.
Okay, Larkin would remain the captain.
Yes.
So
he has the respect of the entire locker room. He's going to be here longer. Yes.
But Stamkos is used to being the captain. All I know is the captain apparently matters in the NHL more than any other sport. I'm just kind of curious. Like, there has to be some sort of experience factor coming in here too. Not in terms of production, but locker room. Is that part of the motivation here?
Well, it might be because again they faltered. They choked. They blew it at the end of last. They fell apart. You bring an adult, a veteran, a guy who's been in the bigger moments in the biggest moments in hockey and delivered in the biggest moments in hockey.
Well, when Larkin got hurt, they just went kapoo.
That's my point.
Yeah. Right. So is that part of the thing here? And is that the sell? Is the sell the Red Wing jersey? You know, Kane. It's one of the reasons he came here. Yeah. He said he wanted to be a Red Wing.
I think so. In regards to the captain, there is something to be said, especially in hockey, for wearing the C. I get that. But there's a lot of different ways that you can be a leader on the team. And maybe the sacrifice for Stamkos is, I know I'm going to Detroit. I'm not going to wear the C anymore, but I can help Dylan Larkin. I can help this team with leadership. I can help them if they get to the end of March and they've got a 9-point lead above the cut line to increase that and not have to worry about the final 2 or 3 games of the season.
Right, and they could give him the A, and they rotated that last year. Kane wore the A in Chicago when he had one of those great games. Ticket texter saying, signing Stamkos long-term would be idiotic. They need to improve defense and goalie. Jason at work. Texter says, Wings are on the verge of something big. I got it. They're bringing back Ken Holland. Another one says, rumor has it Holland could go to Chicago. Board on third base again, Jim? Yeah, he gets Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
That would be unbelievable.
And the number 2 pick in this year's draft.
You get 20 minutes unplugged. No break.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that break just to hear you go off. I mean,
this guy again! Why would Stamkos come here? We're not in the playoffs. It would be to be the piece that gets them into the playoffs. And Tampa was bounced in the first round last year. It's not like going back to Tampa is a guarantee. That's with Kucherov. They got bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
And again, at 34 years old, this is most likely his last big deal.
Yep.
So he's looking at the rest of his life in regards to, over the course of 3, maybe 4 years, can I make an extra $1 million? Can I make an extra $2 million? I don't know what that number is. I'm just throwing out nice round numbers right now, but it could be as large as that.
Yzerman's gearing up for something. The Stamkos thing, to me, makes as much sense as anything else. It's 97.1.